Good day, everyone. My name is Tom Furness, and I'm delighted to be here at the TECHFEST gathering. Thank you for inviting me. I want to especially thank Dr. Rosen Mohammed Amin for this invitation. And I would love to be there myself in person and see the wonderful projects that you're working on. But right now, I'm on the island of Maui in the Hawaiian Islands in the Pacific Ocean, and just probably not going to be able to make it, but certainly I'm there in spirit. So let me go to some slides I'd like to show to you. I just have a short period of time to chat with you. So I'm going to share my screen. Okay. I've entitled my talk today, Tools, Hope, and Vision, and trying to say a little bit about the work that I've done in the past and how it may relate to you and your future. So it turns out from time immemorial, humans have been tool makers. And we have certainly used these tools to help us grow as a civilization. Some of the tools have to do with manipulating matter. Other tools have to do with moving our bodies from one place to another. Even other tools have to do with the management of bits or information. And then others have to do with how do we power all of these tools. And not only the generation, but the transportation of electricity. Now, there are also tools that we use to move our minds. Think about this. Certainly newspapers take written language, and from those written languages, they provide something that forms within us. We call that information. And that's how we get our news, or one way. Then, of course, we have books. Again, the amazing aspects of language where just traces of ink on a piece of paper can cause things to happen in our mind as we create the worlds we read about in the books. Then, of course, there's a way to add the visual element to this, like television and movie theaters. And then finally, perhaps one of the more modern ways of moving our minds are what we call virtual reality. And this really is something that's transformational. And I want to talk to you a little bit about that, because that's pretty much what my career has been for the last 57 years. So this tool of virtual reality actually moves our minds. Let me give you some ideas of what does that mean. Once you put on the headset, you have the possibility of walking at the speed of light. Think about that, how relativistic mechanics are being able to display to you so you can see what happens, at least from a theoretical standpoint. Or what if you could juggle in the moon? I've always wanted to learn how to juggle, but gravity causes things to happen too fast. But if I go to the moon or a virtual moon, I can reduce gravity to 1/6 of what it is on the Earth, and then juggle with things a little more slow. Then increase the gravity slightly until I get to Earth's gravity, and even the gravity of Jupiter, where I'd have to be juggling really fast. Or what if we changed our interpupillary distance, the distance between the pupils of our eyes, from 6 centimeters to 10,000 light years? It's like having a really big head. And then we look at the galaxies and the stars that are within the Milky Way galaxy. What that can do now is, instead of seeing a two-dimensional image out there, it becomes three-dimensional. So now we see the separation of these stars in ways that we would not be able to see them otherwise. Or what if we could shrink ourselves down to maybe 2 or 3 centimeters, and then get a frog's eye view of the world? See what it's like to be a frog, and then actually reduce ourselves smaller, and then crawl up into the mouth of the frog, go down through the digestive system, and come out the other end. And give us unprecedented new understanding of creatures that we have in our world. Or maybe even smaller, the size of a red blood cell, go into the body and flow around in the circulatory system, and see the exchange of oxygen due to the hemoglobin in our red blood cells, the tissues in our body. Or what if we can make ourselves smaller and walk on the surface of a soap bubble? Now we're really beginning to interact with the atoms themselves and molecules. Or what if we could actually see through someone else's eyes? Maybe it would be a way for us to learn surgery and go from there. Or what if we could go into a virtual forest and become a tree and grow up in that forest, where we had our friends? One of our friends would be a bird, another would be a squirrel, maybe another one would be an earthworm. And we'd see how the cooperation of all these entities create an ecological balance. When we go into a real forest, it certainly doesn't take the place of going to the real forest, but once we've gone into the virtual forest, we'll never forget it. Or what if we can stand in that field in an African village and wait for an airplane to fly over to drop food because we are starving in this village, and to look in the eyes of the villagers and understand more what's going on here, and the importance of understanding how families around the world don't have enough food. Or maybe even see what it's like to become, or see through the eyes of, a refugee, and the living conditions of people who don't have a country. Or maybe even things that are closer to home, with the nobody's listening approach, to communicate to others what has been going on with genocide in various populations. Or even restore virtually some of the sacred sites and the cultural heritage that some communities have that they don't have now. Or what if we could actually go into a virtual space and create a world in 3D instead of just on a two-dimensional canvas? Or what if we could actually walk into a building that we have designed and see what that building's like before it's constructed? Look through the windows, see what the landscape looks like, see how the sun is shining through the window on December the 3rd every year. Or once we've decided what to build, to actually use virtual reality and augmented reality in the place of blueprints in order to build the building, where we see the virtual building and now we just put the matter where the bits are. Or what if we could pilot a hypothetical starship, one that would fly faster than the speed of light, and we would fly into the galaxy looking for other planets that would support life. And as we go to the particular point in space and orbit around a particular planet, we could launch a shuttlecraft and go down to that planet and using virtual sensors determine if it was sport life. And this way we begin to understand astrobiology and understand what it takes to support human life and other life forms throughout the universe. Or what if we could be with our grandmother when she's having her 90th birthday and we're the other side of the world? Wouldn't it be wonderful to participate in that as if we were there, and for us together to go another place, like she's always wanted to go to Machu Picchu, and there we are with her actually touring a virtual Machu Picchu? Or what if we want to now treat pain? This is a very real thing, but treat pain without taking drugs, medications, by just putting on a headset, going into a virtual world and having our pain reduced, their experience of pain, just as a result of being in the virtual world. Or if we wanted to treat other problems like our fear of heights, various phobias, PTSD, so forth, with virtual reality, so that we do not fear them anymore. Or perhaps we want to visit with others on the other side of the world. This is a project we actually did many years ago in 1994, where we did the first virtual reality engagement with people in Japan, Seattle, in the same room, the same time, reaching out and touching each other virtually. Or what if we could read a magic book? Now we know about books, but this is a magic book. So let's say that we're reading a fairy tale story in the book. And then we put on our glasses and this castle jumps out of the book as an augmented reality building. And then we're looking into this building, we're moving our book around and we can see it in 3D. And we look through one of the windows and we see a person inside. We say, well, we want to go there. So all we do is flip a switch and now we're inside that building that was in the book, walking around and visiting with people in there. And then we flip another switch, go out to the book again, turn a page, and there's another world for us to go into. So this combines our language, our written language, with virtual reality to have these experiences. Let me give you an example of that. Here's a little video that talks about augmented reality and what we call the magic book.
Welcome back. A new kind of reading material may hit store bookshelves soon.
Q13's Elizabeth Johnson shows us a magic book conjured up at the University of Washington.
This is a story about a Japanese princess, and she's crying here.
It looks like just a regular children's book, but this book can take you on a magic carpet ride of sorts.
When we were children, you'd read books with your parents, and you always want to become part of the story. And so we thought about that, and we thought how we could make that happen.
Mark Billinghurst is on the team of researchers working on the Magic Book project at the University of Washington's Human Interface Technology Lab.
So when I look at the pages through this headset, I see 3D virtual characters coming out of the pages.
And by simply flipping a switch, you can virtually leap into the scenes.
So here's the samurai, and the samurai is looking a little bit confused because he can't find his horse.
Of course, it's not really magic. The secret is special software written by the researchers and the black squares.
On the pages of the books, we have a picture with a black square around it. And then the way our software works is that the camera recognizes this picture and overlays virtual models on top of this picture.
You need a computer, camera, and virtual reality glasses. Mark says if you already have a PC, the rest should cost about $700. The technology does more than entertain kids.
Let's look behind us. There he is. So that's the evil ninja.
It can be used to show 3D how-to diagrams, to show an ant's eye view of a flower, or to help medical students.
We're working right now with the medical school to build an anatomy textbook so you can see a virtual 3D heart and fly inside the heart.
Elizabeth Johnson, Q13 reports.
The lab is giving away the software for free, and researchers say they've already had interest from a museum and a car company, so you can expect to see the magic book technology in the real world in just a couple years.
This video was actually done in 1991. Or what if you were a student in middle school, maybe around 11, 12 years old, and with other students, you could actually build virtual worlds that would teach subjects having to do with physics, light, gravity, momentum, and scale to other 12-year-old classmates that teach them these things. Or what if you had an instrument that lets you scan an image directly onto the retina of the eye, and there weren't any screens anymore that you looked at? What you would see hovering in space are these incredibly bright and detailed images, and it all comes from the beam, low energy beam scanned on your retina. Or what if you wanted to communicate with octopuses? And in order to do that, you became an octopus. You inhabited the body of an octopus in order to interact with a living octopus, so that we could now begin to come up with ways to communicate with other beings. Well, guess what? You and I can do all of this and much, much more. All of this has been done already using virtual and augmented reality. So what is this virtual reality all about? Well, actually, we have virtual images in our lives all the time. Whenever we look into a mirror, we see a virtual image of ourselves. That's not really us, but it appears to be us. So it's been there. Reality has been there, of course, and then virtual reality, as you see in the reflection in the water. Now what we're trying to do is take advantage of the virtuality. So where did VR come from? Well, actually, I'm one of the original inventors of virtual reality, starting in 1966, when I was doing some projects for the US Air Force, which then evolved into what we call virtual reality today. And then I moved to the University of Washington to become a professor in 1989. And from that time, spun off 27 companies with my students, with the inventions that we and patents that we had, to actually form the core of the virtual reality industry. And then a lot of these application projects that I've just discussed. So the bottom line in all of this, so what, is that virtual reality transforms us, and especially the way we see and the way we remember, because it actually unlocks our spatial memory, something that other media really isn't able to do. So how in the world does this all relate to you? Well, just like my introduction, virtual reality is just a tool. It's a tool that can help us do things we wouldn't be able to do otherwise. In this way, it's sort of like the smartphone and artificial intelligence and the metaverse and TV and all the other devices that we've had in the past that convey information to us. But this is what's important about VR, is it takes us somewhere. It actually puts us in a place by putting a place inside of us, one that we'll always remember. But it's what we do with these tools that's most important. Certainly, tool makers are necessary to create the medium, but the messages in the medium, or what it does, is really more important. Because with those applications, we can move our minds to learn and create and connect with others to solve problems worldwide, become one in purpose and focus on what we're trying to do. And the bottom line is, you do not have to be a computer scientist to do this, because what we want to do is open this to those application domains which go far beyond just making the stuff. It's what we do with the stuff that becomes important. And all these domains that you see here are now open to the creators to create worlds for people to go into and experience. All of these things that can lift us and lift humanity. So how am I trying to help this now? After 57 years, one of the things I wanted to do is provide something to help young people like yourselves to basically get into this because it's really going to be your world. And so in 2015, I formed what is known as the Virtual World Society. The idea of the Virtual World Society and our mission is to unlock minds and to link hearts to lift humanity, to work on the humanitarian applications of this technology, where we can become one and focus on these pervasive problems that confront us today. So we would like to think of ourselves as a heartbeat of the metaverse and what is unfolding there. Now, what this means to you, I believe, is that if you look at the logo of the Virtual World Society, you see an adult that's actually holding up a child. Now, we can think of the adult as being an old guy like me, or parents, or whatever, and the child is you. Now, notice a few things about this. This is in a backdrop of the triangle of virtual worlds. And what the adult is doing is holding up a child so that the child can see in a different direction and up higher to see further than the adult can. Because the adult is facing to the past. The child is facing to the future and has a vision of the future. So the adult is saying to the child, what do you see? Because you're going to be the ones that make it happen. So let me encourage you to join us, in particular for you to sign up for free as a member of the Virtual World Society. Here is our URL. Go to the site, join up, and then you can become one of us in building this future for our humanity. And also learn a lot about virtual reality and have a lot of fun at the same time. So let me encourage you to do that. So thank you for this opportunity to spend just a few minutes with you. I am sure I will be amazed at what you come up with in your hackathon. So best wishes, contact me, be happy to chat with you about the directions you want to take in the future. Take care. Goodbye.